Good evening, everyone. Today's October 28, 2025, and it is 6:37 p.m. My name is Jenny Rivera, and I chair the Holyoke City Council Public Safety Committee. Before we begin our agenda, I'd like to take a moment to introduce the members of our committee, which is Councilor Patty Devine and myself. Today, Councilor Izzy Rivera will not be joining us as he already had a prior commitment. Today's meeting is being held in chambers on Zoom and is being broadcasted live on the public access channel. We are being recorded by Zoom and we are being streamed and are in person. The purpose of today's meeting is to discuss and address various matters related to public safety with our community. With that being said, let's officially commence our Public Safety Committee. I'll entertain a motion to take item 1 off the table.
So moved. I make a motion that we accept the minutes of March 31st.
Second? All in favor?
Aye. Excuse me, I think Meg's on there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me
And
introduce.
Victoria.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, councilors. I forgot to introduce. On Zoom, we have Councilor Meg McGrath Smith. We also have Attorney Mike Bissonette, Councilor Juan Anderson Burgos, and we also have Victoria Hull.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that item 2 be tabled until our next meeting, public
Second.
safety.
Second?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you want to read it?
Item 2 is ordered with Patty Devine, Councilor Devine, that the Public Safety Committee meet with the police chief or designate as soon as possible to discuss and possibly regulate motorized scooter.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the chief cannot be here, so we will be tabling this.
Okay. Okay, make a motion that we take up item number 3. And Madam Chair, I'd also like to make a motion that we allow the public to speak about this, since it's very near and dear to their hearts.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we could have you go up to the mic, just state your name, right? Name
Yep.
and address.
Yeah. No, it might be.
No,
Should be a,
underneath, I think.
yeah.
Oh, here we go. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, great. My name is Betsy Scherer Sullivan. I live at 85 Jarvis Ave in Holyoke, but we really live on Old Bassett Road, which is why we're here tonight. Just a brief history, because I know you have a lot on your agenda. We bought the house in 2022, thanks, Matt. And we fell in love with it. I have deep roots in Holyoke, and when we found this house in the middle of the woods, we fell in love with it. One of our questions to the real estate agent was, what about this road? And both real estate agents said, oh, don't worry, it's on the docket to be paved. So we were like, okay, great. Well, I found out probably a few months later, there was a tree leaning across the road. So I called the city to see if they could help, and they said it's not a city road. And just to back up a little, it was at once paved. It has street lights. It has a street sign. The city plows it, thank goodness, and they come up and get our trash. So we had no reason to believe that it was not a city road.
Right.
And there began my investigation to who owns this road. So I went to the library, to the historical room. I looked up old deeds and maps and whatnot. And I kind of hit a dead end on, who owns the road. So it was at one point an old county road that went from Holyoke to East Hampton. At let's see, another point, the houses that were built on that road were from 1940. So the frontage was granted from the city to build the houses, and permits were granted, and I'm at a loss. This has been before City Council since 2020. It was first brought to ordinance by Councilor Bartley, and then in the past 5 years, it's been bounced around. It's been to finance a couple of times. It's been to ordinance, multiple city engineers. I don't know. It's just an ongoing thing. And so I'd like to thank Meg McGrath Smith and Patty Devine for helping me out with this. And Patty actually took a drive up the road and she contacted the fire department. And I have a letter
Yeah,
from
could you
them.
read that
Sure.
into the record?
Sure. Another
The
thing
fire
I'd like to
department went up
mention
there. Okay.
is that my husband had an accident in which we needed to call an ambulance. And the first thing that the ambulance drivers said when they got out was, you got to do something about that road.
Yeah.
So anywho, this is from Fire Chief. It says, Counselors, in accordance with Counselor Devine and Counselor McGrath Smith's order, we went to Old Bassett Road and assessed its status in relation to fire department operations. The road is in very poor condition. The lower portion of the road is hard packed and gravel, then transition to pavement as you go up the hill. However, it would not keep us from going up to the houses with an engine company, but it would be slow going. We would be unable to bring a ladder truck up the street though. There is a hydrant at the corner of Old Bassett and Jarvis Avenue on the same side of the road. It would be approximately 960 foot lay to reach to the top of the street where the houses are located. We carry 1,000 feet of 5-inch supplies hose on our engine companies. It would be advantageous for our firefighting operations if the road were both widened and repaved, respectively. John, I can't pronounce his name.
Katowitz.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
yeah, close enough.
yeah. Is there anything else that you can think of?
Okay. So that's a
Thank
good
you
letter.
so much for your time, really, and thank you for both of you for having us.
And thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
in. Patty, would you like to chime in anything else?
I'm trying to think of so many different things. Reading that letter, I feel like we're getting closer for you, but then I'm sure you felt that before, you know? So maybe the best thing to do, you've got the letter from the fire chief. If we can, I'm not sure if we have a copy in the city council, put it that way. We must. And I would suggest sending that letter, that we would send that letter to Representative Pat Duffy and Senator Velas. And maybe between the two of them, they can get that road paved, because it's a simple thing. I'm sure they've done it, and maybe Mike can help. They've done that with many roads. Widen them, pave them, end of story. Because they plow, right? They pick up your trash. You get your mail delivered. Do you get your mail delivered up there or down below? Down below. Okay. So all these things, it seems like we're so close, but yet nobody's willing to just do it. And we've got Victoria, the engineer. Do we still have her? Yeah.
She's on.
She's there. I don't know if Victoria wants to say anything. And Meg's online, of course. And Mike,
We have
DPW, I don't know if you want to add anything, but
I can add in a little bit. I think I appreciate and I believe I've seen the research that the resident had mentioned that they had done, and I used that to pick up from there. I believe DOT is also in receipt of the letter that you guys were mentioning.
okay.
There is a record, and I'll have to default and forward it to the group if they don't already have it, but there is an actual formal discontinuance of Old Bassett in that area as a public way that goes back quite some time, 100 years or whatever. We have a written, there's a copy of the discontinuance. And then the road itself up to sort of from, it's Northampton Street, right? Is it Northampton or Jarvis? From the main road back, is also in a conservation easement after the time, and then Holyoke City Council actually allowed it to be put into this conservation restriction area in 2005, and there's record of that being a public hearing. All of that being said, it's not that I agree or disagree with the paving of the street, but I think from the public way piece of things, there is evidence to suggest that it was intentionally discontinued as a public way. Public Works does regularly plow, pick up trash, and do, pave, like patch potholes and stuff like that on private ways. So that is sometimes also misleading when somebody is looking, at buying a house and stuff like that. It's not, I understand it's not that easy to somebody that's looking at purchasing a home. So I think there are avenues that, people could facilitate and put in motion if the end goal is paving. If the end goal is accepting it as a public way, I think, we'd have to talk to legal about how you undo a conservation restriction, but we can proceed. But I think when we start at number one, the evidence is that right now it is not a public way. Even though that's not how it feels to people. So I know that that's not a popular thing, and I'm not trying to say that to be a bad guy. I'm just saying, but if we move from there to now, what do we want to do? I think that's easier.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Can we make a motion to allow Mike to weigh in? You have,
Second?
and we have Mike in Chambers, Mike Gallagher from DPW.
Yeah, I have had conversations with Victoria on this, and there's been conversations about this road in the past. This is, you mentioned, not the first time this has come up, and I was actually searching online, looking at the property lines on the city's website tonight, and it looks like the road is owned by all the parcels going up to their houses. I did print out the maps that I can hand over to you before I leave here. And
Okay.
I just want to make Victoria's point. For as long as I can remember, we have been we've been providing a low level of maintenance to that road. A couple times a year, we have to go up there and we do some patchwork on it. The lower end where it's swampy out near Jarvis Avenue, we have in the past put down asphalt millings, had our equipment up there we make the road passable maybe a couple times a year. We do snow plow up to, now I believe we do not go beyond, there's a bend up there where you don't want our trucks to go up past anymore, and our trash crew does pick up the trash there. That's a service that we've been providing for that road. The Cedar Hill Road, which is on your agenda tonight, Wall Road out off Southampton Road, and several other non-accepted city streets. We've always extended a courtesy to the citizens in a manner that we're able to provide without really much of a trouble for us. And from my understanding, the conversations I've had, there's like everything would have to go through the state before we could even think about trying to do something in the way of laying out a road to pave it.
Okay.
That's all I have for that.
Okay, thank
You have
you.
any questions?
Anything else?
I'm just I lost my train of thought. If this is, and I appreciate the fact, and I'm sure they do too, that the DPW does a lot of things with the trash removal, things like that. But I know what it was. All these roads that people are saying are not accepted ways, wouldn't it be easy just to file orders to have them be accepted?
There's state laws that govern the municipalities accepting public ways, and you'd really have to start off through the law department. And there's a long procedure for that, and
I got a feeling
it
they
may
don't
not
mind
even.
waiting.
You could go through the procedure, and the state still might say that the road does not meet the criteria.
Okay. So I would make a motion that we, and perhaps Juan Anderson Burgos might help us out here, that we maybe have I don't know if the next meeting or the meeting after that, that we have Representative Duffy in, and I don't know if she's been in before or if you've talked to her before. She's really wonderful. She's really wonderful. So maybe we want to do that. Is
DOT as well.
yeah, and Senator Vilas is on maneuvers or something like that because he's
Deployed,
in.
right?
He's what?
He's deployed.
He's a what?
Deployed
Yeah.
in the military.
Yeah. So what do you think of that if we put all these, and Meg could tell us too, if we put all these roads and have orders that they be brought into Pat Duffy and the state. I'm sure that these people, they've been waiting long enough, waiting a little bit longer probably isn't going to kill them. But at least we'll get it done.
I agree. It will not hurt to try and see what the state delegation can
Right.
have done. From my understanding, because there's conservation restrictions up there, I cannot promise you
Right.
that anything could be done.
And you might not know where the conservation restrictions are. Are they up to their house or are they past their house?
They're,
Because if they're past their house, we're golden.
they have bought their properties. I have printouts of the properties that are owned by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts
Oh, all right.
Department of Fisheries and Wildlife.
Okay. So, I don't know if Meg wants anything else, but I was going to suggest that I make a motion that Jeffrey take all of these these items with the streets on them and send them to Representative Duffy. And I suppose we could send it to Senator Vilas, and his staff would get that because he is deployed.
Meg,
that-
you want to weigh in, Meg?
Yeah, if you don't mind. Thank you. So there's a number of roads in Ward 7 that are non-accepted and across the city. But there are a few that are in particularly bad shape. They've hit the point where it's been 30 or 40 years since the city has paved them. And it really does become a question. We have a state statute that requires these roads in our city to be passable by a fire truck, by an ambulance, by a police car. And so we've been doing things over the years to keep them passable, right? By patching when we can, hot patching when we're able to. But you do hit a point where it's really hard to keep patching. It just feels like the road itself is deteriorating beyond the capacity to do it that way. And so a number of the roads that you have before you tonight are in that position. And although we initially started an email conversation with our state representative and senator, I think the feedback that I've gotten is that they really want us to handle it locally, and that the state isn't willing to take responsibility for, kind of the old county roads that were discontinued. And some of them we have documentation for, some of them we don't. And that becomes even trickier to understand. And then now we're talking about significant research in land court to understand. And sometimes the state is asking us for documentation that we don't have, or that they don't consider rises enough to the level at which, even a road that we maybe thought was accepted at some point, they may not say, we actually agree with you that it's accepted. And so we are in a bit of a situation with a number of these roads. So one of the options is to come up with a financial strategy to not accept roads, keep them as they are in terms of their width, so not to state code, and pave them. Cheaper to do that. We looked at that in finance last fall, I believe. And at that point, the concern that was raised at that point by, I think it was Councilor Sullivan, was, well, what's going to happen if we only do a 2-inch overlay? If we're trying to do this as cheaply as possible, are all of these roads just going to get this 2-inch skim coat and then they're immediately going to start breaking down? Why aren't we doing more of a reconstruction? If they're really in bad shape, then maybe they need the 4-inch or the 6-inch or even more than that, which would drive up the cost. So at that point, we took a pause, and the goal was, let's step back, let's find out exactly what these roads really do need and how much it would cost to do it the right way. we now have information on how much it would cost to bring them up to code, right? And to repave them, which is significantly more than it would be if we didn't and just did like a skim coat. And that's historically what's been done with these roads. When they get really bad, there's a skim coat over them that's done of, maybe 2 inches, and it keeps it going, at, the minimum amount of taxpayer expense. So it's a tricky situation to weigh, the needs of the folks who live on these roads. I understand there are folks who make the argument that, people should know, or they bought the house on this road, and so it is what it is. But we have a lot of these non-accepted roads, and some of them are not in, terrible condition, but some of them really are. So at this point, I do think that we have to come up with a solution. We probably have to come up with it locally. I don't think the state's gonna provide support. They've sort of been radio silent since we started the conversation with both of their offices. And the response is, well, come up with your financial plan to either use municipal funding and, keep it not accepted perhaps, and do enough to just get this road by for, a period of time, or go the city's route of accepting these. I've talked to Victoria Houle, she could talk about it more. The process is in-house, so effectively, we have to, let me pull my document from our notes. So, we would need to, out of the, DPW budget, or out of, potentially mayor's contracted services, an appropriation needs to be made in order to hire someone who can do the work of creating a mapping, a survey of the land and name the boundaries. Some of that's research in land court, and some of that is just like the drawing of the actual physical documents, which then become a legal document. And then our city engineering team, would work with that surveyor, kind of get a cost estimate of the through the procurement process, get the survey done, and then be able to send, that to the Board of Public Works and Planning Board. Although their votes, while required, are not binding. So, for example, Eager Road was recently accepted by council, but initially had some pushback at the Board of Public Works, but council still supported it. And then council has to eventually vote whether or not they want to accept it as a public way. So it's a bit of a process and takes time, and does include an appropriation for the additional survey and council approving that, going to Board of Public Works and Planning Board, and then coming back to council for ultimate acceptance. But Victoria Houle can talk more about that.
Thank you. Yes, Mike?
I think Victoria will have more to add on that, I believe. But what's standing out to me versus some of the other roads that Councilor had a discussion with us on is the Old Bassett in particular. As Victoria mentioned, the conservation restrictions in the state lands that are abutting, and then actually, from what I'm seeing, the state conservation areas are actually owned. The road, parts of the road are owned by them, and that may be beyond just us taking a local action. We may have to have permission from the state to even do anything like paving on that road. And I'll defer to Victoria from here.
Okay, thank you. Victoria, your hand was up from the last time, or you have it up again?
No, I did try. Yeah, I didn't put it down right away, but it is up now. Okay, so if there is a part where, because of some of these are very, very old, sometimes tracking down the history and being like, well, it was a county road and then it's here, it's really hard because you can only make an interpretation of what was there. Unless you can find like what I would call like an aha document that says, haha, see, it was accepted on XYZ date, then the state will accept that. If you find something that says, well, unfortunately, it was very definitely discontinued, the state's gonna go, unless you prove otherwise, it's discontinued. Those are, finding those two documents on these much older roads is a 5% of the time. In many cases, you can't find a document one way or another. You can find old maps, you can find things that imply it was a public way, then you can find something that maybe implies it wasn't, then it was a main street, it was Cherry Street, then it was Cherry Street Extension, and then it was West Cherry Street. Like, it's very, very confusing. I would almost suggest, like, when you say you want to invite, the state people and DOT, part of me is like, okay, great, I'm not the bad guy. But I also don't want you to like waste time asking when they're gonna come back with maybe say the same answer as to what you need. Perhaps if there was sort of a much bigger scale, and I don't mean to turn it into a huge project, but you know, if you took all of the public streets and had sort of this open discussion of the pros and cons of owning the street. Do you actually want to own the right of way, or do you just want to be able to pave them? You know what I mean? Is that beneficial? Then if you were to go through the standard process, first there's a petition that takes, you know, the residents' time. Then you have to have normally you have to have the maps prepared by a land surveyor. Then you go to the Board of Public Works, and the planning board is the state statute, the Board of Public Works is the city of Holyoke's requirement, then it goes back to council and you accept it. Each street might be somewhere, let's say the average street is maybe $10,000 of money for that, preparing a survey map. So that's also an expense, whereas maybe depending on the size of the street, it's not that much more to just pave it. You open the door to, well, shouldn't the road really be 20 feet wide? You know what I mean? There's a lot of questions, but maybe there's an opportunity to decide which ones, what are the pros and cons? What are the goals? Is it to pave these things? Is it because we really want the right of way and we want utilities, et cetera? And then maybe there is a discussion with DOT. So in some cases, there is mapping that shows what could be the right of way. It shows the limits of what that public or common area used to be. Maybe people don't own the road, but no one technically, you can't even prove who owns the road, but they only own up to the road. Maybe there's a lesser level of documentation. Maybe in those cases, if you provide the old mapping, they're willing to accept a council action on reaffirming it as a right of way. You know what I mean? Like maybe there's something that could be negotiated to have the exercise not be so expensive for the city of Holyoke if the decision is to accept them as public ways. Again, I just want to say I'm not necessarily for or against making any of them public ways. I just want to be sort of truthful in terms of the process and how if you don't have the information, you know what I mean? Like what they do want to make you do at the local, it's at the local level, but it's for any municipality. And I will also say for the record, this situation is not unique to Holyoke. This is everywhere. When you get to older streets. So I'll leave it at that and I'll let you guys sort of decide, but.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I wish there was some simple situation that we could do that would, make this doable. I think what's in our favor is the fire chief's letter, because of trying to get up there if there's a fire or anything. And with all those woods around, might not be your house that's on fire, but it might be the woods that are on fire. Mike, do you have any suggestions? Oh, you know what else I was thinking about? Maybe the next time we meet on this, we have Yoni from the Conservation Office. Have you guys ever talked to Yoni? Okay, we should have him in. He's he's a conservation officer, and I think that might not be a bad idea, so maybe he can shed some light on this and help us to get that declared a public way,
And I get your frustration because I think I would be in the same boat. I feel like you just said it went to these different committees and still no answer, no anything you've heard here. Have you been told before? So, let's start.
Yeah, it's sticking this
We have
committee.
to sit somewhere because we also just can't. I did hear this is public safety, and I did hear there is a safety issue.
Yeah.
And so if it's gone to the other committees and it seems like it's just stuck here, like I wouldn't want to purchase a home either, and it's just stuck. So if we have to start and do it and now push buttons and get on, and something's got to give. So one way or the other. So like I said, I can't promise you it's going to happen, but I can promise you we'll give it 100% at this, and we'll get some kind of answer to get this rolling, or you could get an answer either way, whether it's going to be paved, if we have to go, the state or the conservative, somebody's got to give in and tell us where do we go, because just leaving you there and not getting answers is also not fair to you as a taxpayer in Holyoke.
Yeah. Do you have a well, or do you have city water? You have a well, okay. And Mike, you've got some information for us?
Online, I was able to
Microphone.
I was able to pull up the some various maps of the areas, the properties.
Okay. We can put those in committee, and then when Yoni comes in, maybe that will help.
Okay.
We'll show the bottom of all of these, shows the, this one is the properties of neighbor. There's 2 houses up there.
Madam Chair, we just have to make sure everything can be heard on a microphone.
You could have a seat there. Here.
All right, and then we have an abutting parcel that's down near the bottom of the road. Yeah.
Is that right here, Mike? Down there, or that one there?
This one. All right, these are what the highlighted areas are the various properties that are owned by these are owned by the state,
Okay.
and they mentioned Jarvis Ave as their properties. These are the properties of the homes up there that have Jarvis Ave listed. And basically, outside of most of the property around them is owned by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Fisheries and Wildlife. And when I did when I printed these out, unfortunately, I did not notice that the owner of the property did not print on these. But these are the different property maps of the for that road.
So everywhere
You
that,
could see how the properties pretty much cut over the roads up there.
so everywhere that's outlined, that's conservation land?
Each outlined area is for the parcel that I printed the map for each parcel
Okay.
going up that road.
Okay.
And you could use those to get more definitive information from the assessor's office.
Okay.
Okay.
And is it possible to make copies for,
You
You have
this?
all that?
Okay. Okay.
okay, then, okay.
Okay.
You gotta go to the mic, sorry.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I have a lot of maps that I've saved over the years. I have all the assessors' maps. I have maps back from the 1800s. I know Victoria touched on that. It's so hard to interpret, and all the old language and all. But, you know, the most recent, I believe, was in 2011 when the, what was it called? The Holyoke open space, and when the state bought the property all by the water tower and whatnot, I don't know if there was any public notification of discontinuing Old Bassett at that point. And one more point I want to make is that it's not in our deed. Old Bassett Road is not listed in our deed, so we don't own any part of that road.
Wow. It's definitely confusing.
I agree with you on that.
I can answer, so I think the conservation easement, and I don't mean to just jump in, but I think the conservation easement possibly starts beyond the limits of these houses. But there is a part where, because it was public and then it was discontinued, and there is 100% a document that says it was discontinued, in that aspect, it's possible it falls in this default range of, even though it hasn't been conveyed in a deed to the person, that the person then owns to the center of what that former right-of-way is. And there's also these weird things where people still have the right to pass. So the person that lives in the furthest in the back still has the right to use that. They can't be like landlocked and have the front person block them. So it falls into like that gray area. That being said, that's the part where I'm trying to get people a little bit more focused on what maybe the goal is, because in light of the fact that there is that discontinuous thing, there is either choose to pave it even though it's private, or try to take the avenue of establishing a right of way and accepting it through all of the steps that Meg had outlined, which I can provide everybody that, and I can also provide where I thought it had been circulated, because I definitely looked into this a year ago when it first came up. And I will say I was impressed with the maps that resident found, because it is very confusing, because they keep changing the road name and you're like, okay, that's Jarvis, but that's because it was a huge parcel and it gets name changed, etc. So we can provide both a copy of the discontinuance and then also sort of the steps to accepting it as a public way.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Bissonnette, do you still want to weigh in?
Buddy, I just want to note that in looking at these maps, it looks like this Old Bassett ran all the way out to Southampton Road, was an access road from both ends. But bear in mind, what I'm hearing from the residents is that they're looking for just the opening up to their houses. And other than that one parcel, smaller parcel that's owned by the state, I'm not seeing any conservation limits here. I'd look at the conservation easement though, because there is confusion about ownership of roads and former rights of way that were county roads. So abandonment, sometimes you get these land court issues that, is it like an alley where both sides own to the middle of it, or was it abandoned to the city? And then the city abandoned it to the state for conservation purposes. So I'd want to look at that, but to be clear about the limits of what's being sought, I think is important, because if we take it back, if the city takes it back for a public way, we want to make sure that we're not looking to go all the way, 6,000 feet of pavement. So I think getting those limits, I think is doable. I think that's the first step. But if you're going to initiate a process, it's a great idea, Patty, I think, to bring everybody together and let's see if we can package this up as something that maybe we can do once as a city and look for a funding source that will help the plan get implemented. It seems to me it's always easier if you're trying to sell something rather than just a one-off, unless you have an emergency. So this would also put some more property into the Chapter 90 formula, which is
Chapter 90.
60% accept roads. So thanks, just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Attorney Bissonnette. I mean, a motion?
I'm sorry?
Want to do a motion? What are we gonna do?
I think the best thing to do at this point, we've got this information, we've got Victoria and what she's had to say. We certainly have the owners of the property up there here. I hate to say, let's continue it to another date until we get the conservation people in here. And like Attorney Bissonette said, get a lot more people in here to talk about conservation, to talk about the Department of Transportation, all those people. And maybe they'll say, you know what, can't be that tough, let's just switch it back. Okay? So the chair will, I don't want to tell her what to do, but she'll set up another meeting with the Yoni, who's the conservation person, and he's terrific. He's terrific. So maybe that might give us some more answers.
So my next one, and it's gonna be November 13th. If we could get him to come in that day, we'll put it on the agenda and you'll be contacted.
Yeah, I cannot be
Okay.
here. I think I
you're
told
not
you,
gonna
I
be
cannot be here.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. I have to call you tomorrow,
Who, me?
Mike.
Oh, Mike.
Okay.
What about the 20th?
You wanna do it? Jeff?
I'm sorry?
Is the 20th available instead of the 13th?
We've scheduled a public service meeting that night.
How about the 12th?
12th?
The 12th, there's an ordinance meeting.
Jeez.
Oh, I'll be there.
19th.
The hold on.
So
The
let's do-
19th also has an ordinance meeting.
Did you say,
It's what, the 19th?
The 19th also has an ordinance meeting.
geez.
Oh, yeah. So what's the next
the-
available date in November besides the 13th?
The 25th.
You do the 25th?
What did I wrote 2 to 7 here. Oh, you know what, that's Priscilla's food bank. That's fine. 26 is good.
Okay. Can we change it to the 26th? Will that be good for you guys?
The 25th is open, the 26th is not.
Okay. Day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so usually City Hall closes early on the day before Thanksgiving, so I didn't want to assume scheduling a meeting that night.
Okay.
What about the 25th?
The 25th is the day that's free.
So we'll go with the 25th.
25th.
That's good for you guys? Okay.
And we'll have conservation in, we'll have DPW in again if they need to be here, the engineer. Anybody else we need to,
We're gonna bring in Pat Duffy?
oh, Representative Duffy, and Attorney Bissonette is always here, so he will be here. Okay, that, again, we're trying.
Okay.
I'll have to check in with Rep. Duffy just to make sure she's available.
Sure,
Okay.
okay.
Alrighty.
So I'll make a motion, Madam Chair, that, let me just find it. Item 3, 4, and 5 be received and not transferred, and tabled until the 25th of November with public safety.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Okay, thanks, Jenny.
You're welcome.
Okay.
You want to take item 6?
Item 6, make a motion to take up item 6.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 6 is filed by Councilor Meg McGrath Smith. Order that the city engineer and DPW report on the frequent flooding on Longfellow as its severity and planned improvements to prevent future flooding. Councilor Meg McGrath Smith?
Hello.
So this was an issue that's come up a number of times on Longfellow. And the initial thought was that when they had redone 141, that they were going to do some regrading and they were going to make some adjustments during the paving process so that there would not continue to be this flooding. And as a result, folks were feeling positive at the time when they repaved 141. Well, then the first, bad rainstorm happened and the road was flooded again. So it's sort of a question because initially folks were like, well, is this going to be fixed? So I guess part of my question is it that engineering is saying it's just not, we don't see it as it's dangerous, the flooding is mild enough that it's gonna be okay and it's gonna continue this way, or are we actually saying that it's important enough that we're going to fix it with some sort of regrading or whatnot? So this is the question. Every time there's a really bad storm, the flooding is pretty significant and floods out in front of people's driveways at the end of Longfellow. This is the end that's like then facing right towards 141. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, do you want to weigh in on this one, or we'll start with Victoria?
Gotta use the mic.
Or you could come sit with us if
Oh,
you
yeah,
want. You'll have the mic right in front of you.
yeah,
You want me to go up there?
Yeah.
sure.
You can have a seat with us.
There has been numerous action items has been taken on on these areas up there. I know I believe it's 87 Longfellow is a particular subject matter, and the parcel of land behind 87 Longfellow, which abuts East Hampton Road, is also is owned by the same property owners, 87 Longfellow, and I believe all the parcels along East Hampton Road coming from if you're between Burns Way and just before like the 91 exit ramp there. It appears that all the property owners that own on Longfellow also own the parcel on East Hampton Road. I'd have to double check that. But and some of the measures, Veolia handles the stormwater for the city of Holyoke. Some of the following measures that they have taken on this issue is the grading on the downstream pipe in between the yards. Nearest 87 Longfellow Road has been changed. The open culvert area has been stoned. That they should have written that differently. It's been lined with heavy stones like riprap to help control the flow of the water.
Okay.
Then they have also rebuilt the head wall for that the storm culvert there, and they have repaired a pipe. They've cleaned out the culvert of leaves and debris, and one of the things they've also done is they've installed more grading around the inlet pipe on the eastbound side of East Hampton Road. That's on the opposite side of East Hampton Road from the backside of Longfellow here. And they frequently check the area prior to heavy rainfall that's coming in. And one of the things that did happen is that when the road got paved, what Mass DOT actually did is they put in a culvert for the water to drain off of 141 into this area. And this area in question for years by design has been where the stormwater runoff is supposed to go to. And Veolia has done a lot of work on trying to make it so that it can handle the load of the rainwater that goes into this particular area. And I'm not sure if there's actually been any confirmed basement flooding, or if it's just the parcels of land along 141 that fill up with water during these rain events. I'm sure Councilor Smith can let me know more on that one.
Okay,
And
go ahead, Meg.
you can have that.
So the main concern has been the flooding of the road and then blocking folks' driveways and then flooding into their yards. And also just the fact that we're getting so much more severe storms. And we're getting storms now too in the winter. And some of those storms in this area, you know, around 141 and the mountain, the severe rainstorms can cause really significant flooding. So I think it's a fear too of people that it's gonna keep getting worse, or at least will continue, especially these winter storms where the ground is frozen. So there's no place for that water to go and it's just running off. Has caused some real damage in that area on both sides of 141, particularly that side, because stuff is coming down, right? It's gravity. And so I think the question I've heard from neighbors, it was in June and it was July. It was whenever we had those significant rain events. So it's not when it's every single time it's raining. It's whenever we have those sudden, more severe storms. And I know looking at like the Hampshire Gazette had an article in the paper a couple years ago saying like, you know, the number of severe rainstorm events in our area in particular has gone up 71% if you look at us versus 10 years before. So we're just seeing more of this. So this is, thank you for bringing that up, Jeff. This is an image of the July storm. And it happens very sudden and the waters rise and folks are like, is this okay for our road? And I feel like I can't get my car out. So these are where the concerns are coming from. So I'd be interested, Mike, to hear if the repairs that they've been doing have come since that July storm, or maybe even happened before. Just a sense of timeline, and if we think these kinds of things are going to keep happening, or if you feel strongly that we've sort of done the work that needs to be done to keep the flooding from happening.
Go ahead, Meg.
Counselor, I do need to point out the image you're showing is in a really severe rain event like that. That is not only restricted to Longfellow Road. When we get a storm of that magnitude, there's flooding all over the city that happens. And we've recently had flooding like that around the city back in the early September from what may have been a microburst storm when we had all the trees come down. And sometimes even the best of systems is not going to handle every single event. That's if all the systems were designed that way, we'd probably know about cities that never have this kind of an issue during these kind of events. But these type of rain events are difficult to control, and the water usually does subside after. We have underpasses along the near the canals following the railroad bridges that can flood out during these storms, and we do when we know we have a significant rain event, we'll stage horses at them to block those roads off so traffic doesn't go through them. There's there's an area it's also in your ward, Northampton and Northampton and Hamden Street. There's an area there that's prone to flooding during these events too, and some of it might be an aging storm water system, and some of it won't always matter what we do. We're going to get this kind of flooding happening when we have that severe a storm. And I will concede the issue to you that we seem to get more heavy rain events, and these things that might have happened once a year, once every couple of years, seem to be happening a couple times a year. It may be something that the city has to look more into going forward.
Thank you, Mike. Anything, Councilor Devine?
I don't have any other questions or anything.
And we're good. So Meg, should we say this has been complied with?
Okay, make a motion that this has been complied with.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
You are DPW.
Yeah, the whole night is DPW. Okay, this is item number 7. Agenda number 47. Make a motion that we take it off the table.
Second,
Question?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So item 7, filed by Juan Anderson Burgos, ordered that the DPW replace the stop sign on Linden Street at Mackenzie with a flashing stop sign. I know Counselor Juan Anderson Burgos, you're online.
I am.
Okay,
Hello,
you
Madam
have the
Chair.
floor. Hi.
Hi, thank you. Thank you both, Madam Chair and Councilor Devine. So right now, as we speak, there are already some red stop signs, blinking stop signs at the corner of Linden and West Franklin. And when I had those put in, the amount of accidents that occurred at that intersection, there were a lot happening once every couple days. And so after those were installed, the accidents decreased. If you drive down Linden, right before you can either make a right onto Mackenzie or a left to go towards Beach. There's cars that fly through there. I myself have come across multiple times where I've been almost hit because for some reason cars either don't see that stop sign or they're just I don't know, they just go through it. As a matter of fact, a year or so ago, a car blew through that stop sign and smashed into the front of the house, a house that's on Anderson. So this is just to prevent any further accidents. And this is not just one constituent, multiple constituents that live in that area that have asked me time and time again, something needs to be done. And I have had former chief and the current chief to have officers there, but let's face it, we can't have officers there all the time. So the next thing that, I have at my, what I'm able to do as an elected official is to, to make this, file this order to place a red blinking stop sign to reduce the incidents or the car accidents.
Thank you, Counselor Anderson Burgos. Mike?
One of the answer, I remember when that accident happened that you're talking about. I'm not quite
Yeah.
sure if a blinking stop sign would have stopped them the way they were moving, but anyways, one issue that was brought up by Matt Sokop to me is the house that stop sign will be right in front of. Have you gotten their opinion on having something that'll be constantly blinking outside their windows?
So the way it faces, it wouldn't be blinking outside their windows the way their house is. And I'm assuming you're talking about the one on the corner there on the greenhouse. Where these stop signs have been placed, I've had not one call.
All right, I do not believe there's any special order as far as, I don't believe an ordinance change is required to swap out the type of stop sign there, though mainly it would come down to desire and funding.
Yeah.
I really have no other input for this committee on that.
Counselor Devine?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I agree with Counselor Anderson Burgos, but from the Mackenzie part of it, because I usually, when I'm leaving, I don't go up Portland, I always go down Mackenzie for my house, and I'm very that stop sign's fine, but I'm very careful about the Linden Street because they do fly through that stop sign.
Yeah.
So maybe the blinking light is the best thing, or a caution, something, but I know that it doesn't need it on Mackenzie, but it definitely needs it on Linden, something.
Yeah, you're right, Counselor Devine. The for some reason, and I think, if I've driven down Linden, and if for some reason when you're driving down Linden, I don't know, the way it's designed, it's almost as if your body, your brain is telling you to keep going. It's almost as if you don't even see that stop sign. And I believe a blinking stop sign would cause someone to look at it. You know, because it's blinking right at you, you can't miss it. The Mackenzie, there's never an issue. All cars always stop there.
Yeah.
Even on the Anderson side. They stop there. It's just that one stop, the one stop sign on Linden, they don't stop. They just go right through it. And I don't know what else to do, but anyways, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
I'm fine if we can do it. I think definitely something needs to be done on the Linden side, not on the Mackenzie or the Anderson Avenue. So,
So Mike, you said we do not need an ordinance change for that. It's just replacing the sign.
No, it would just simply, the order, I believe the protocol would be refer the order back to the full council, and then they refer it to the mayor, and he will, and a lot of times, orders like this, he signs off on them, and he may put a note contingent upon funding, and we'll look into how we can handle that on the department end.
Okay, perfect.
I'd make a motion that we send it to the full council and approve it, and then send it to the mayor, and then send it to the DPW.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mike.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Chair.
Councilor
Thank you.
Anderson Burgos.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I think that's it, right?
I think that's it,
Number
just
nine
the,
for 8 and 9.
8 is just give it leave to withdraw. It's already been taken care of or complied with.
Complied with.
Motion to comply with.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need to read it into the record? Yeah. So item number 8, from Andrea Johansson, letter regarding proposed lithium battery site in Westfield. And
Thanks, Mike.
thank you, Mike. And this has been complied with.
I don't know if I second on that.
Oh, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then item number 9, I believe you talked to Counselor Rivera about that. So motion to take it off the table.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And item 9, filed by Councilor Israel Rivera, order that the reps of the Holyoke Housing come in and provide an update to the residents of Topher Apartments regarding a letter residents received about the possible removal or remodel of the parks in the area. And Councilor Israel Rivera has stated to take this off the table?
Yeah, and just, it's 2 years old
Oh, okay.
that we
Lead to withdraw?
complied with.
Comply with?
Yeah.
Okay, so, item number 9, we would say complied with.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn? Yes, no?
Yes.
You should say that, not me, I'm sorry.
All right, have a good night. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I keep.
Good night, Council.